After 20 years of building together through dust, deadlines, and damn good ideas, Pace and Adam invite you to join them for honest conversations about the home building world. Welcome to Build Connected, where experience meets insight, powered by Diamond Home Restoration.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Build Connected. I'm Adam.
And I'm Pace.
And here we are, doing it again. We are on episode
54.
54. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. Let's just jump right into it. Unless you want to talk about anything.
It's Mother's Day. You at least got to. Did you send a card out to your mom?
Of course I did.
Okay.
Yep. Phone
call to mom.
Mom's gonna be getting some FaceTime with the family. Yeah.
Good. We're going out to dinner, I think, for Mother's Day. So we got a nice dinner set up. Yeah, gonna make sure you stop and show a little appreciation.
What time do you generally eat dinner, do you find? You're old, so you're like the blue hair special kind of time, I would think.
No, definitely not. We eat 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Okay, that's late. That's like what time we eat. I thought we ate late, but I'm shocked to hear you eating that late. Okay, good
Very
for you.
European. That's what we do.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have a cigarette after dinner too?
Whoa, no cigarettes. No.
Okay. That's a European thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing your dinner hour with us. Let's get into some products. We find ourselves having to make adjustments. Seems like every year with all the new codes that are coming out, and this is a new code for us that has just come into fruition and is going to be enforced, and that is anything within 5 feet of your house that is wood can no longer be wood. For example, in California. Thank you, Pace. Say you have a fence that comes up to your house or a gate, and that is wood. You are no longer allowed to build that, and it has to be made of non-combustible material. Now, there is, you can use some wood because they do have a ratio they talk about. So, for example, if we are using hog wire as kind of the inlay of the gate or the fence area, and then the outer perimeter is wood, then that's okay because the ratio of non-combustible to combustible is greater, and I think it's something like 70%. Don't quote me on that, but that is a factor. So, when we're talking about products, there's some great companies out there that are making aluminum fencing and gates. Specifically, I'm familiar with two of them. One is called Sleek Fence. I guess sleekfence.com. They have some beautiful fencing, and I think they sell gates as well. And then another one is called alumission.com. So these are, these are two great places to kind of take a gander at some materials that are being used out there for fencing. And these are things that we're going to be looking into as we progress through new projects that come up. Again, you can kind of go the hog wire route, or you can go completely all aluminum and metal with the posts and the infill of these fences and gates.
I would add one thing. I don't know this. Like you said, this code is new. It's just starting to get enforced. But I would assume, not that you would do this, but you could maybe, is you could use a 2x material for the fence. Just like a deck, right? You can lay down a 2x6, say redwood deck board. You can use siding that's 2x material. So I would assume that if the deck is made of 2x material, that it would, like the burn time would suffice.
Well, let's get back to everybody on that, because we have an inspection next week, and we'll have this conversation with the inspector and see if that would be allowed.
Yeah.
But that's good to think about.
It's interesting. This starts here, and as the climate changes, there'll be more and more places across the country where these various zones outside of the house, and that's the best way to think about it, right? Like from 0 to 5 feet is that very critical zone, and that's what we're talking about here. But as you progress out into different zones, zone 1, 2, there's different requirements. So these things are all really cutting edge. We're getting impacted by fire the most here, you would say. Um, but over time, these ideas will spread and these adaptations will spread. So yeah, stay tuned.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in addition to that relates to fire, right? They just passed this as well for us here in California, the 0 to 5 foot rule. You are absolutely not allowed to have any combustible material within 5 feet of your house. That means mulch, plants, none of it. They're enforcing that. So as I walk around my house, like I have planter beds that are right up against the house, and that will have to be removed, and I'm gonna have to put some gravel or rock in that area. So yeah, these are things to think about. Anything that's below that eave, no plants anymore. So
And maybe
something we're
for a
gonna.
little clarity, what we're talking about right now is WUI zones, right? So those
Thank you.
wildfire
Yeah,
urban interfaces, this is where it applies. Like my house is not in a WUI zone. I've got I've got 10 trees that touch my house. So like that doesn't impact me yet, but
it
flash
might.
forward, it's
It's
gonna.
coming. And look, Pace, we're going to talk about this on a future episode, not today, but just a little teaser that Pace and I are working on something very big and exciting. So stand by as it does relate to some of these topics we're discussing. But yeah, stand by on a future episode. Maybe probably in a couple weeks, we'll share with everybody what's going on.
Yeah, great. All right, let's get to the grumpy old man. Let's talk about something that's been on my mind. And this isn't, to be honest, this isn't actually anything that's current. And this is a very mostly contractor centric discussion, I suppose. But there are lessons here if you're a homeowner, I think. And it's about bad clients. And bad might not be the right word. Maybe it's there are clients out there that are not a good fit for you, meaning us, right? And every contractor that misalignment, that bad fit is going to be different, right? We set up our company a certain way. We strive to provide certain things, and it's not a fit for everybody. Like we are very detail oriented. We have a workforce, right, that's been with us a long time. They're paid a living wage, right? And everybody that works with us, this is their career. They're not passing through. These are people that take pride in their work, and they care about our job sites, right? So that applies to like the detail on a woodcut to how clean they leave a job at the end of the day. It's far reaching what that means. And for some clients, that's not important, right? They are looking for the lowest number, like the cheapest job they can find. They look at repairs as a stopgap, and that's just not what we're doing, right? But there are people who do that. Um, as a contractor, though, it's important to be able to recognize the person you're talking to. Are they a good fit? It's important to be able to say no, because when you're working with somebody that's not a good fit, that business arrangement probably isn't going to go well. And that could mean you're losing money, or it could mean you're just meant to butt heads along the way. It takes time and it takes some courage to be able to say no to work.
Yeah, you and I have been doing this a long time now, and we're pretty good at identifying potential clients that may not be a good fit. But it can be hard sometimes, right? I mean, for us, our pre-construction process helps with that as well, right? I mean, we've talked about this in the past. Our pre-construction process is a process where we, provide real-time pricing through the design phase of the project, and we're not in contract for construction. So Again, the goal is to do the work for the client after that pre-construction phase is over. But that phase allows us to really learn about the clients and for them to learn about us. And I think it's happened to us one time where we got through the pre-construction phase and we realized that, the client was not a fit for us. And it can be difficult, right? To tell them like, we're not going to be doing the construction and they were counting on us to do that. That can be a tough conversation. But look, in the end, we did provide a service in the pre-construction process, and they did get something, right? They got a design that fit the budget, and that's the goal of the pre-construction. But I think about some hard stuff that you and I have gone through in the past, and this goes back a long time ago when you and I first started the company. We started in 2008 together, and I want to say this was like 2010, 2009 maybe. We This was before we were doing pre-construction agreements, and we had a client that just presented themselves as just they were great people, and they were great people, but they were a little crazy. We found as we started the project, and it was very challenging for us. It was the one time you and I ever had to stop the project and actually no longer continue working there. You remember that one I'm talking about where they
I
were
sure do. I mean, we actually that's the only time we kind of went back to our contract and worked out an exit strategy. The thing is, there are plenty of crazy people out there in the world, right? And so, one way to navigate this is to clearly communicate expectations. You can clearly communicate what you're going to deliver, how you're going to deliver it. As a homeowner, you have a responsibility too of communicating what you expect. If you don't do that, and if we don't do that, like we are setting ourselves up for failure. So, like every episode, I feel like we're talking about communication on some level. It's totally the heart of what we do. But the instance you're talking about, I don't think detail is important, even though it's fascinating, like what the actual situation was. But
was.
sometimes, like things slide through the radar, and this is definitely one of those cases. I think that you, over the course of years, you can start to kind of connect dots, right? And like, let me just pick on one. Like you and I made a decision 10 years ago or something to no longer work with a client where there was an HOA requirement, where you had to get approval from a board. We will no longer take those jobs. They were just wrought with complications, right? Little power struggles in a community, right? A neighborhood where somebody just wanted to flex their veto vote. And it's not worth our time. Right. So we won't do those anymore. And there's, every contractor's got something that they stay away from. For some people, it might be attorneys, right? They won't work in that world. There's all sorts of sort of conditions you stay away from.
You can't tell the people that our experience with that job where there was something fascinating that happened. I can feel that everybody's on their edge of their seats. They want to know, what do you mean by fascinating? So I think we can let's tell a quick little story of the fascinating part, right?
Okay.
So, one thing that was absolutely fascinating was we had finished doing the rough electrical work, and the homeowner went around with a torpedo level and put it on every piece of Romex and completely went bananas because the Romex wires were not plumb and level. That was one example of an extreme blow up from from the client, and it was fascinating.
Yeah, I think the message there is shy away from the hyper OCD client, right? Something that's going to get buried in a wall where plumb and level have no relevance to their efficiency or performance, right? That's
Let me just say, we're neat and tidy on the stuff that you can't see because it's important to us. So everything was running straight and clean. Let's just be clear about that. But Yes.
Yeah, the rough electrical is immaculate. Like when you compare it across the trades. But yeah, an expectation that was very unrealistic within the industry.
There you go. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to our third phase of our pod, where we like to talk about something interesting on a job. You and I are in the midst of wrapping up a project that we've been at. We've been there for a while now. I think it's been what, 9 months. How long have we
Yeah.
been there? Okay. Anyway, we're coming to the end, and great homeowners, great project. Sometimes it's sad to leave. And sometimes, I think the homeowners, yeah, came up to us the other day and told us, "Oh man, I'm not going to see you guys anymore." How sad. I mean, they're a little bit sad, but at the same time, they want their space back. But the
Before you go further, like that is the norm on our jobs. It's always tough leaving.
Yeah,
It's not a permanent goodbye. It's a bye for now, you know, all the time. Like, but it's you spend a lot of time at a house and there's an attachment. And we, like I said, with communication, we talk a lot. And so it's always hard to say goodbye.
yeah, no, it is. But listen, as we come to the end of our job, and for any job, right? This is for us the most critical part of the project, right? This is the final punch list phase, and this is what really separates the good contractors from the really really good contractors. And it's all about finishing strong and getting that punch list dialed in and doing it in a timely manner, right? You don't want the final stage to linger, and it's important that we focus on all the little details before we do our final walkthrough with our clients. So, what Pace and I do is we do our final walkthrough after we're pretty much done, and we put together our punch list of things that we give to our guys to finish off the final little tidbits. And it could be anything from that outlet looks like it's not completely plumb, or we need a little bit of touch up there, or whatever it might be. But again, this is the critical stage for us in terms of really putting in 150% and making sure that everything gets dialed in that kind of final 1 to 2 weeks where we're doing punch list items. We don't want that to drag out.
Yeah, the saying goes like the final 10% of the project is the hardest 10%. And this is where you shine as a contractor. I think the key to being successful in that final 10% is being proactive first, right? So like you mentioned, we do our first round of a punch list. So all of those little details with a slow walk through the project, like anything you can pick up on, right? Writing those down and addressing them first before you go to the homeowners to get their list, right? You want to knock off items first proactively, and then deal with anything that you missed that the homeowner has picked up on, and then you swiftly address those items that are reasonable. And sometimes there are items on a punch list that are beyond reasonable. That's always a hard conversation, but it happens, right? And it could be something that was just beyond the scope to begin with, or it could be something that definitely meets the expectation that we've created, um, but they want something more, right? Those are kind of few and far between, but it happens once in a while. And just navigating that is just about talking through it.
Yeah, there's a couple things that I want to just mention too, right? As you get to that last week or two of the project, the homeowners can see things like really wrapping up. And so they want to start putting their punch list together. They have a tendency to want to tell you about things. So it's important for us to relay to the homeowner like, hey, we're going to do a walkthrough with you guys and do a punch list, but just wait until we're done our walkthrough and our own punch list. And then we can kind of tackle those items. And the second thing is creating expectations, right? We want to make sure that we're having a discussion with the client about things that can happen in the future. And a great example of this is like the new deck that we built around their pool, right? The material that we use is a PVC deck board, and the frame of the deck is made of wood, right? Pressure treated lumber. And over time, wood expands and contracts, and the PVC material moves too. So creating that expectation is of those gaps between deck boards will change over time. And so this is just one example of things you want to make sure that you're aware of that might show its face in the coming months and years, so that they have a handle on what to expect.
Yeah, and I think the inevitable popping of screws and sheetrock, like we always talk about that. That's another one. Yeah, I think that setting those expectations, um, efficiently and quickly moving through these lists, it's the way to kind of put a bow on great projects.
Yeah. Real quick, because some people, when you say popping of screws, that may not resonate with everybody. But what paste means is over time, the framing, the wood framing behind the sheetrock, it will shrink over time because there is still some moisture in that framing. And before we, put sheetrock on, we do a moisture reading and test all of the framing to make sure that it's not beyond a certain reading. But as the wood shrinks, occasionally it'll pull the screw head in a little bit, or it'll just move that screw in or out, and it will push the mud that was used to fill that screw hole in out a little bit, and you get that kind of screw pop. And that's what Pace is talking about. And these things are common as the months and years progress after a new project has happened. So something we share with the client that they can expect to see.
Yeah, I mean that's one example. Another is certainly settling, especially if you've done a new foundation. But more important than anything for us, we're an earthquake country. So like they're shimmying all the time. And that movement leads to little pops. All right, everyone. Well, thanks for joining us. Always fun, Adam. We'll see you next time. I'm Pace.
And I'm Adam.
See ya.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on Build Connected. For more stories, insights, and ideas, visit diamondhomerestoration.com or find us on Instagram and LinkedIn. We'll be back next week. We hope you will too.